I have one last question for you,
Yeah.
which is a touchy subject. So this is why I've waited until the end.
Oh, good.
And that is, we talked a little bit in a previous conversation about Gamergate and the treatment of women in tech fields in particular, in gaming, in specifically. And this vitriol that some men primarily feel against women coming into this industry. And as an outsider, I'm not a gamer, I'm a woman in science, but I don't understand the anger. And I was hoping that you could maybe give me some insight as to why is there so much rage against women in these fields?
I don't know. I wish I understood it better because I see it and I have friends that suffer from it. And I worked with Carrie Byron for 11 years, and I've watched the evolution of the terrible shit Carrie's had to deal with as a public figure and a woman and a science communicator. I can't help but feel, and I'm psychoanalyzing people I haven't met, so full caveat, but I have to imagine that our culture is constantly promoting impossible ideals of ownership, ideals of success, and ideals of body type. And, women have suffered mightily from Hollywood's ideas of what women should look, of Hollywood and general media ideas of what women should look like. Even where we've got old dudes on Fox telling all the female hosts of a show he's on that they could all lose 10 pounds. They should have stomped him at that point. But I can't help but feel like it's part and parcel of a deeply sort of nihilistic view of consumer culture. And I'm not decrying consumer culture. I know that it's like a cargo cult, but I deeply love the brands that I love, like Apple and, designers whose clothes I wear. I'm deeply addicted to it at the same time as I recognize it promotes some terrible ideas about what's possible and what could make you happy. And I think, really at its base, all anyone wants is to be happy and to be fulfilled. And it's genuinely sad that there's a group out there that feels so unfulfilled that they feel the drive to push their lack of fulfillment outwards, right? I want to deny things to you and you and you because I feel denied. That's terrible. Again, though, I feel like, maybe it's my liberal politics, but I point the finger at a culture that looks at, I think I read a poll a few years ago that a really significant proportion of Americans think that they'll get rich by winning the lottery or suing somebody.
Oh, great.
Right? And you're like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Those are terrible ideals. Those are terrible things to shoot for. My goodness. And I also say this recognizing that I'm saying it from the position of someone who is very comfortable and I have a wonderful life and I'm very grateful for it. And, my lack of suffering is something, look, I suffer like everybody else suffers. I recognize that because I've been on television for 11 years, I suffer less. And I don't know any way to counteract that. So again, I'm psychoanalyzing people I've never met, and I'm trying to answer like the biggest question I've had in months. And it is a really important question for us to ask societally. It's a really important question for everyone to be asking. Because at the moment you try to hurt other people, whether with words or physically, the moment you're trying to hurt other people, there's something deeply wrong with you.
And I just want to say, I really believe that this is a minority of individuals, that they are very vocal and very loud, but they are small in number. And that the vast majority of people that I have encountered in my own work as a scientist are like you.
Right.
Kind, generous, intelligent. So,
one of the things we're taught culturally also is that power is really important to have. And people like having power. I read years ago an analysis of corporate culture that said all you need to know about corporate culture is that the only power is the power to say yes. That's the only real power. It all boils down to that. And almost nobody has that power. Everybody has the power to say no. And the problem is in corporate culture is that because that's the only power most people have, they use it as often as they can. And I'm not saying that's a brush you can paint all corporate culture with, but it is an interesting way to examine that feeling of power. Because I agree with you. I think it's a small group, but I think it's a group that has discovered its power, however long it might last, and are drunk on it. Yeah. Because when you're a kid and you realize you can make the adults around you laugh, you have a power. Mm-hmm. When you realize that you can talk to someone you're interested in and not be idiotic and actually get them interested in you, that's a power. Mm-hmm. When you read a book and you realize that you have a different analysis of it than the critic who's writing about it, and you feel like yours is valid, that's also a power. And these are all really good things to develop. We want to be able to change the world around us, but for Christ's sake, for the better.
So we just need to get all those guys into an improv class where they just have to say yes.
Yes, with a female teacher.
Perfect. Well, Adam Savage, thanks for being on Inquiring Minds.
Thank you so much. This is a great conversation. Good.